because here it is.
5 seconds left.
Sports Journal starts right now on VIC Radio.
Yes, this is Sports Journal right here on VICradio.org. My name is Alex Wong. I'm here with Matt Hornick and Carl Valentine. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
Pretty good, you know.
Doing well, thanks.
Excellent. All right, so today we got a pretty good rundown today. We're going to talk college basketball, Major League Baseball, NBA. First, though, we have to start right here at home. South Hill, Ithaca College lacrosse. 2 great wins yesterday for the men's and women's teams. I guess we're going to start here with men's lacrosse. They had a nice 17-7 win over Stevens. Jake Cotton, 4 goals and an assist. Jack Shumway, 3 and 2 for him. Matt, I know that you were actually covering the game for the Ithacan, the paper here. What can you tell us about the game?
Well, I mean, this is the kind of win that is going to give Ithaca the recognition that they have been getting in a lot of the polls that I think, honestly, because they're a very good team. Jake Cotton has been leading this team, playing out of his mind. 51 points so far this season, practically double what anyone else has. The guy, he finds open guys for assists. He'll score it when he has to. And the way that they took down a team that's been ranked higher than them in Stevens yesterday, well, some, and I might say this as well, that Stevens had an off game. They were not playing their best lacrosse. Ithaca just was by far the better team, and they showed that for all 60 minutes.
Yeah, and Matt, the schedule is only going to get harder from here. Rochester Institute of Technology coming up, Nazareth, that's coming up a few days from now. So it's a good thing that they're starting to kind of catch fire here late in the season.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this team, now that they've taken on some of their tougher competition, it's, like you said, it's only going to get harder. When they played Nazareth, when I spoke to head coach Jeff Long yesterday, he said Nazareth has 2 of the best attackmen in the country, in reference to Division III on it, obviously. And Ithaca's defense, I think, is where they're the strongest, so they're going to be really put to the test because they have 2-time Empire 8 goalie of the year, Scott Sydenham. The guy locks up the goal. You're not going to get a lot past him. He's phenomenal. Eli Gobrecht, Winston Wenham, Keith Morrissey, those 3 defensemen, they are stout. Eli Gobrecht's a 2-time All-American. The guy's a thoroughbred.
Absolutely, and that game against Nazareth coming up is actually senior day as I'm looking at the schedule here. A bit odd that they're not having it, that their last home game of the season against Houghton on the 16th, but senior day nonetheless. Obviously should be getting a win in that one. Jake Cotton, I remember him from last year as really the big freshman standout. He was electric last year, even more so this year. It sort of points to a nice youth movement, I think, on that team.
Yeah, I agree, because Cotton's been playing out of his mind recently, and they have a lot of really solid freshmen on this roster right now. If you look at guys like Josh Delapuka, who is almost instant offense for these guys. A guy like David Drozdjak, that guy can score it pretty well. Defensively, they might lose some depth next year with the departure of a lot of their defensemen, but I think that they'll be able to rebound offensively and make up for what they might lack next year defensively.
Yeah, it's that classic sports adage that we all like to use when our defense or whatever isn't doing too great. Just score more points, score more runs than the other team. Looking over at the women's team, they had a 4-point win, 12-8 over Nazareth. Morgan Rassicott, 3 goals and 2 assists for them in the win. Guys, anything stand out to you from this game?
I was going to say, I think what stands out to me is how they went on an 8-0 run at one point in this game. That was when they went scoring 8 goals straight in lacrosse is, well, it's a pretty helpful thing if you think about it. But it was, so they just went on this quick offensive spurt, and when they came out with that lead and they didn't let go of it.
Yeah, definitely the scoring outbursts. That anytime you're able to swing the momentum in a game, especially a college game and a college environment, that definitely works to your advantage. Very mental game.
Yeah, and one thing I'm finding interesting with this women's lacrosse team is senior one of their leaders offensively, Allie Runyon. She scored What was it, like 55 goals last season? She scored 56 as a sophomore, 31 as a freshman. Has come pretty close, obviously, on 2 occasions the past 2 seasons of breaking this school's all-time goals in a season record for that team, which is 61, set in 98. She's out, has been out with a knee injury that she had to get surgery on. There's been no timetable for a return for her. I know we know somebody who's covering that team, and the players and coaches really wouldn't give any sort of hints to him as to whether or not Runyon would be back this season at all, or what the timetable is for her recovery. I mean, I told you guys the stats she had the past couple seasons, but obviously they're not missing her too much. I mean, looking here at the schedule, Elmira College, they beat them 22-1 back on March 23rd. A lot of games, a majority of their games over 12 points. So that's been sort of a revelation to me, because I thought they'd be a little bit lost without Runyon. What do you guys think?
I mean, someone's always got to step up when someone else goes down. That's how sports works. If not, you have no chance of winning. And clearly they've had some players step up, because when you think about how big of a part of their offense Runyon was last year and the past 3 seasons, to be able to still have a successful season, they're currently 6-3. They've had a couple of tough losses to some top 5 teams in the country, and without Runyon, that's still hard. And that was early in the year when they were still figuring themselves out.
Yeah.
And I think as the rest of the season goes on, they should be able to continue. And who knows, if Runyon comes back, that would be amazing. That would be clearly a spark in their offense. They'd probably become a whole other team.
Yeah, like Matt said, definitely difficult beginning of the season, but they're still 3-0 in the conference. The schedule does flatten out a little bit, so
they do have 2 more games against ranked opponents. So there's Hamilton and St. John Fisher. So it's not completely flat. I mean, there are a lot of very winnable games, and then those 2 are things that they might have to worry about.
Yeah, but it's not Cortland and Franklin and Marshall.
Oh no. Most teams aren't though.
Yeah, and looking at the stats of the season, I mean, I've noticed it's a little bit more even in terms of goal scoring and points. Her battery mate last season, Riley Marion, is leading the team right now at 27 goals, 30 points overall. Then after that, it's Morgan Rascott, Morgan Cadwell, both with 18 goals, 32 and 22 points respectively. Those 3 were good offensively for the Bombers last season, but obviously with Runyon's injury and absence this season, they've had to really step up. It's nice to see that they're sharing the wealth versus having one player score over 55 goals every year. It's good to see that other players can step up and score. So hopefully long successful seasons for these 2. We're going to kick it over to the extra point right now. Or excuse me, we're going to go to the top 5 actually. It's with JJ Klein talking some NCAA basketball.
March is madness. Every year there's a team that shocks the nation. We all remember the 2010 and 2011 Butler Bulldogs. But very few of those teams host a trophy over their heads. So here's the top 5 teams that did the unthinkable and won the national championship. Number 5, the 1954-55 San Francisco Dons. The whats, the whos, the Dons. The University of San Francisco had a mark of 28-1 en route to their 1955 national championship. A nice turnaround from their 14-7 record the year before. Led by junior center who goes by the name of Bill Russell, the Dons beat LaSalle 77-63 to win the national championship. Number 4, the 2010-11 UConn Huskies. The Huskies seemed to know when to get hot. UConn entered postseason play having lost 4 of 5. Then, Kemba Walker happened. The 6'1 guard from the Bronx led UConn in scoring throughout all 11 of UConn's postseason matchups, which ended with a win over Butler and Houston. Number 3, the 2013-14 UConn Huskies. Like I said, UConn knows when to get hot. The eventual champs dropped their last regular season game to Louisville, 81-48. In the first round of the tournament, the Huskies narrowly escaped St. Joe's in overtime. But the rest is history as the 7th seed went on to defeat Kentucky in the championship. Number 2, the 1984-85 Villanova Wildcats. Coached by Rowley Massimino, the Wildcats played nearly the perfect game against John Thompson's physical top-seeded Georgetown team, anchored by Patrick Ewing. Nova shot 79% from the floor, which was just enough to give the Wildcats a 66-64 win. They still remain the lowest seed to ever win the title. Number 1, the 1982-83 NC State Wolfpack. One of the most iconic moments in sports history is footage of Jim Valvano looking for someone to hug after his squad defeated Houston during their Phi Slamma Jamma era. The Wolfpack won on a last-second dunk by Lorenzo Charles, who soared through the air to give Derek Wittenberg's prayerful heave the extra boost it needed to catch some nylon. That does it for the top 5 most surprising national championships in college basketball. I'm J.J. Klein.
Excellent work, as always, from one of our favorites, J.J. Klein, on the top 5 there.
Top notch.
So now, perfect segue, actually, between the top 5 and what we're going to talk about next. The March Madness tournament, Final Four happened last night. The championship game is set for tomorrow. It's going to be Villanova and UNC.
Heels, baby.
Yeah, I'm with you. We'll get to that in a second, but first, let's talk about the games. First one, the blowout. Villanova beats Oklahoma 95-51. Just an absolute bloodbath.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a lot. Maybe there is a lot to say. What do you guys got?
Okay, well, anytime you hold Buddy Hield, Naismith's Player of the Year, to 9 points, you give yourself a chance against that Sooners team. I mean, I remember the Kansas game, Oklahoma at Kansas earlier this year, when that was when I started believing that Oklahoma could really pull off a national championship. And, when you see Buddy Hield dropping 40-some-odd points, you realize he's the key. But unlike those, UConn teams that JJ mentioned in the top 5, this Oklahoma team has their, star player, as the previous UConn teams had their guards, Kemba Walker and Shabazz Napier. When you're able to stop that star player, the team kind of sputters.
Well, it just straight up showed that Oklahoma is all Buddy Hield, or the vast majority. Yeah. I mean, Spangler's inconsistent. Isaiah Cousins tries to do way too much consistently. And Kadeem Lattin's mostly just there for rebounds. There's not a lot of other offensive consistency outside of Hield. So when you find a guy who can bother Hield enough to get him off his game a little bit, or a lot of it, as we saw last night, they're going to lose. It's just the fact of the matter.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, their leading scorer was Jordan Woodard with 12. Jordan Woodard, probably I'm going to go with third or fourth scoring option on that team. Not who you want shooting the ball and getting the majority of your buckets.
Yeah, and he was the only player for the Sooners that was in double digits. If you look at Villanova, Jenkins had 18, Hart had 23. Brunson had 8. He was the only player or only starter who was under double digits, and then 2 guys off the bench, Bridges and Booth, both in double-digit scoring. So, I mean, obviously Villanova scored a lot of points that game, but you see that the scoring was spread out amongst all their players, and they're not a team that focuses solely just on one player.
Well, I mean, I agree. They moved the ball so well. They shot 71.4% from the field. That doesn't happen. Teams just don't do that. But when it does, clearly, as Villanova showed us last night, off of a lot of layups and just a lot of really just good shooting overall, they were just lights out. Josh Hart, 10 for 12 from the field for his 23 points. And I'm a big Josh Hart fan. I think that guy's good. He's going to be very good at the next level. He's a sophomore now. If he stays, he will be the future of this Nova team.
Yep.
Now that Arcidiacono and Ochefa will be gone. And I think Jay Wright's going to be happy to have him because he is so good.
Yeah, phenomenal game. He led the game last night for the Wildcats in scoring, rebounds, and assists. When you're getting that type of production out of one player, and then obviously having the scoring all around, you've got a pretty good recipe for success there.
Yeah, and Carl, you mentioned Buddy Hield earlier, his 9 points. Definitely off of his game. It felt like it,
1 of 8 from the field, just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Or from 3, rather, from 3.
Yeah. And there was one moment late in the game. It was already out of question that they would even think about a comeback. It was playing for pride solely. but he tried to do his signature step back, and he got called for a travel. That was just sort of the game it was for him.
And the Sooners in general.
Yeah, it just wasn't in the cards for them that night, and it was that case of Villanova. General population watching these games, they couldn't tell you a single player on Villanova's team, but a lot of people have heard of Buddy Hield. They've heard of these sort of star players on other teams. Villanova's a team that, it's random guys off the street that are pouring in threes up 40. It's unbelievable what they've done.
Yeah. And I agree, and it's nice to see Jay Wright finally have that team that's like really good, that actually makes it as far as people think they might. Because last year, Villanova lost in the round of 32. I picked that. I saw that coming. Like, they didn't seem like a team that could do it this year. And honestly, I didn't pick up going past Sweet 16 this year. I never believed in Villanova. But it's finally nice to see Jay Wright have a team that you can believe in and that you can see is finally doing what they've expected him to do for God knows how many years, since like the Kyle Lowry and Scotty Reynolds days of the mid-2000s.
Yeah, and actually, Matt, you mentioned earlier Villanova shooting over 71%, just over 71% from the field.
What?
Like that.
What?
That's a team that's going to live and die by their jump shooting because they don't.
I mean, that's what you normally think, but they got to the basket last night much better than they normally do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And if Carolina lets that happen, they're going to lose too. But
yeah.
Carolina also, I think, is a much better post-defensive team and just a better overall defensive team.
For sure.
We'll get to that later. But
yeah.
It's like they rely on the three, but if they're smart enough players. Like, this team has such a high basketball IQ that when you get them or give them the opportunity to score in the lane, they will. And they did last night, clearly, and it was not pretty to watch.
Yeah, and Oklahoma shot just under 32% from the field, just over 22% from three, 6 of 27. Villanova shot over 61% from three. Like, that's...
Ridiculous.
They made everything they wanted to make.
Ridiculous.
It was like Steph Curry.
They almost shot better from the field than they did from the free throw line. Almost.
That's unbelievable to even think about. And then it's just like I'm at a loss for words. It's crazy.
No one saw this coming. How could you possibly see this coming?
Not a blowout like this, no.
No, and that was the thing. Like, I definitely expected it to be a lot closer than it was. I didn't think Buddy Hield would only be held to 9 points. This is a guy. He just won the Naismith Player of the Year this morning.
Yeah.
I think he should have won the AP Player of the Year too. I don't think Valentine deserved that. We can talk about that later. But I didn't see. I couldn't see this performance coming either. I was like, there's no. Where did that come from?
Yeah, it was exactly what the name is. It was madness. It was 95-51 blowout. I mean, it got to the point where it was just downright mean what Villanova was doing. Oklahoma would inbound the ball after Villanova knocks down a 3 up 40. They go down the floor. They try and make a pass. It would get picked off by whoever on Villanova down for a dunk, and it just kept going over and over and over again.
Jay Wright should write the entire roster of Oklahoma apology letters just individually.
There was that moment towards the very end of the game. I think it was maybe under a minute left where I think Villanova did get a steal, and I forget exactly who the player was, but he would open basket, ran on the floor, and instead of going for the dunk, I think he saw Jay Wright out of the corner of his eye and was like, I better not do that, and peeled back around to midcourt to just try not to rub it in even more than they already had.
Well, I think with that game, it all kind of happened so fast. The deficit was manageable up until about, 10 minutes left in the game?
Yeah.
And then, wow, Villanova just blew it open.
Yeah, it got to the point where it was ridiculous.
When you can run the break like that, there's not many teams that can keep up.
That is Villanova at their finest. It's always said in March Madness, the best team doesn't always win, but the hottest team wins.
Yeah.
And Villanova is playing like the hottest team right now.
They're the hottest team.
When you hit 72% of your shots, that's the hottest team. That's just how it goes. That's not hot. That's just straight up on fire, like 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what you want from me.
That's playing a video game on the easiest setting.
That's Steph Curry on easy mode in 2K.
Yeah. Like I've done that before where I tried to score 100 points and you turn all the settings to the easiest way that you can.
Every shot goes in.
Yeah, exactly. And Villanova did that in real life last night. It was crazy. So they're going to be playing the University of North Carolina Tar Heels tomorrow night in the championship game. They beat Syracuse 83-66. I know up here, upstate New York, a lot of Syracuse fans.
They're rather annoying, wouldn't you say, Alex?
Yeah.
Let's not try to alienate everyone.
I'm not trying to be mean.
I'm a little bit more like impartial.
Our friend J.J. Klein's a great Syracuse fan, for
J.J.
example.
Klein on the top 5 was. I'd pay to see what he was like last night. Actually,
I talked to him about it. He was more at terms with it because, first of all, he even agreed Syracuse had no right making the tournament.
Yeah.
Only for them to go to the Final Four, so he was at terms with it. It wasn't as bad as if they were one of those years when they were a 1 seed and just couldn't do it.
Yeah. So this game, UNC led the entire way. They were up 39-28 at the half. They outscored Syracuse 44-38 in the second. There were flashes where Syracuse looked like they were going to get back into it, but it wasn't in the plans last night.
Well, when I watched this game, I was expecting to see a big performance out of Michael Benajay because he had been playing out of his mind in this tournament. Like he was doing things I hadn't seen him do all season. He was so good, and Carolina held him to 12 points on 5 of 18 shooting, and that'll help a lot. I mean, Trevor Cooney, the punk that he is, goes off for 22, and he was making anything. Actually he only made half of his shots, but it just looked like every difficult shot he took went in, and so he was their leading scorer. But if you look at Carolina's stat line, just consistency: 16 from Bryce Johnson, 16 from Justin Jackson, 15 Kennedy Meeks, 13 Marcus Page. This was a well-distributed offensive attack by the Tar Heels, and they're showing that they're the deepest team in this tournament by far. They have been, and defensively they showed why they're able to beat teams that they have so far. And I think they're going to I think they will win tomorrow. Knock on wood, but they have a tough challenge tomorrow.
Yeah, I will say this for Syracuse though: give me Malachi Richardson any day of the week. Wow, what a player! Shot 50% last night, 7 for 14 from the floor. 17 points. If he's staying at Syracuse, I'm guessing he's not an NBA player just yet.
He's not ready.
Yeah,
I agree, but
wow, if he is staying at that program, he's impressive. I was very impressed by what I saw from him in this tournament. And then on the Tar Heel side, I just feel like they just had an answer for everything Syracuse had. I just feel like every time Syracuse got something going, North Carolina came down the floor and either got a slam dunk or a three-pointer, and that takes the crowd right out of it if you're the Orange fans. And that's, like I said earlier, the college environment is all about kind of that momentum and getting the fans in and out of the game. And North Carolina did a good job of keeping the Syracuse fans out of it for that one.
Yeah, and you mentioned the depth of North Carolina. I mean, everybody but Coleman played in that game. They played at least 1 minute.
Yeah.
Well, that's just because they were up at the end, so Roy likes to play his walk-ons, and Justin Coleman was just unlucky as the one walk-on who doesn't get on.
But then you look at guys, Hicks, Pinson, James, Britt, they all got more than 5 minutes at least. Yeah. But then you look at Syracuse, only 2 guys off the bench.
They're just not a deep team. They've been playing 7 guys all year, and that was for a lot of the season to their detriment. And then even though it started to work for them in the tournament, Carolina just, when they have the depth of 3 point guards in Page, Barry, and Britt, and then guys like Theo Pinson, Isaiah Hicks, Joel James off the bench, they're gonna wear you out with their physical play.
Yeah,
and when you only play 7 guys, you're toast.
Yeah, we saw that last night. Towards the end, it looked like Syracuse they couldn't quite run with them with UNC as they got tired. Only rotating in, like you said, the 7 players versus North Carolina. You can afford to give guys breaks because you have trust in your depth. If you're tired, you're not going to be hitting your shots as well. I mean, I know, like we said, Cooney with 22. He's a guy to get sidetracked. He's a senior who it seems like he's been there forever.
Well, he's a grad student actually. That's why you think it, because he has been. Yeah. There's the all tournament team of guys that you think have been there forever. It's him, Perry Ellis, guys that you think have been in college longer than we've been alive.
Yeah, Perry Ellis is like 43 years old.
Well, he actually looks it. Have you seen his hairline?
Yeah, it's worse than LeBron James's.
It's not even close. Not even close.
Yeah,
but
and then just throw out a few more names. You got the guys from Wichita State, Fred VanVleet, Ron Baker. They've been there forever.
Wichita, that's just a team full of 50-year-old guys that you'd see at a rec center, like a YMCA on a Wednesday night.
And I mean, you guys were talking about depth earlier. In this tournament, in our tournament of 64 teams, you have to have depth. to go the whole way. And we're seeing now a Final Four. We have 2 games in 3 days. And just looking back at the Final Four team, the Final Four matchup, Syracuse has 2 guys coming off the bench playing meaningful minutes. North Carolina has 3 or 4 in Hicks, Pinzone, Britt. And if you look over at the Villanova Wildcats, they also, Bridges, Booth, Reynolds, they're coming off. Bridges played 23 minutes for the Wildcats. Those are meaningful minutes. If you have guys who can come off and contribute like that for you, that works great. And then, obviously Oklahoma, they only had really 2 guys, McNeese and James, 12 minutes each. So definitely depth, I think, will bring you far in these tournaments. I think the teams with the most depth are going to, obviously make it the furthest. And that's what we're going to see. It's going to be a great matchup tomorrow with Villanova and UNC.
Yeah, I agree. And interestingly enough, as a Carolina fan and someone who always thinks the worst prior to any big game, after watching some of the things Syracuse had done, I was low-key just freaking out about Tyler Lydon. That guy was playing out of his mind. He had I don't remember the number offhand. I think it was 17 blocks in the previous 3 games, something like that. And I was just sort of low-key freaking out that he would shut down Bryce Johnson completely. And then Benajay would locked Page and there'd be no offense. But I didn't know. I'm happy that I was wrong because I thought, and the way Benajay had been playing offensively, Roberson, Malachi Richardson, I just didn't know what was going to happen. But I'm happy to see that I was wrong, really, because none of those things actually happened for the most part.
So now we got the championship game tomorrow night. Tip-off is set for 9:19 p.m. Eastern. Because
they have to be that exact.
Because no one, and also it has to be that late because no one cares about the kids who have to be in bed before 8. So, guys, are you going to be rooting for UNC or are you going to be V's up Nova Nation?
I think I stated this already. Carolina fan.
Yep.
It's happening. I picked them. If they win, I win one of my brackets, and that's really all I need for confidence for the next 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
So
I'm a little torn. Unlike Matt, my bracket was busted in the round of 32, really. So this one's tough. Villanova, they were ranked number 1 overall for a few weeks there in the season for a good chunk of time. And UNC, just a good program. Roy Williams, I think, does it right. Obviously, there are some questionable things going on there possibly, but
more than questionable. As much as I love the team, it's
yeah.
This could be their last season of basketball for a very long time.
But I'll be rooting for Villanova in this game. I think, like you said earlier, it's nice to see Jay Wright back here with a team that definitely deserves to be here. And I think, they're definitely not the underdog in this game. But I think UNC, a program rich with winning, national championships. I think the last one they had was with Hansborough.
Hansborough lost in 2009.
Yep. So
Psycho T.
Yeah, Villanova will be. I'll be pulling for Villanova in this game.
Well, I've got UNC. Villanova is a great story, especially if they're going to shoot over 70% again. That's going to be awesome to see.
Horrifying.
Yeah. Oh, horrifying for anyone who is really invested in the game like you are.
Yeah. It'll be fun to see how UNC. Counterpunches that because, that was the theme with last game against Syracuse. Syracuse would, start to get on a run, and then UNC would shut it down. So, and obviously Villanova can run. So, we'll definitely see how UNC is able to kind of answer.
Yeah, and UNC was a team. You remember that early season loss to Duke in that big rivalry game. It was a team that there were some questions about their mentality. Could they? Pick themselves up by the bootstraps and make a run. They've proven that they can. They have. And I'd really like to see them win. And it's also been established, Villanova's in Philly, near Philly. And it's well established that nowhere near Philly can ever have anything nice. So, obviously, they can't win since they're near Philly. We are going to now kick it over to the extra point. It is Sierra Keat. I believe she's talking about something involving the NBA.
To be exact, it is the lovely situation going on in Los Angeles with D'Angelo Russell, Nick Young, and the rest of the Lakers.
So let's get her take on that.
And Iggy.
This week's Extra Point is about the locker room controversy in Los Angeles earlier this week. Lakers player D'Angelo Russell's Snapchat was supposedly hacked, and with it, a video of Nick Young talking about women in an inappropriate manner. Young is engaged to rapper Iggy Azalea, who later tweeted, I see D'Angelo Russell is trending. I actually liked his film. Thanks, bro.
With this incident comes the heated discussion about what some refer to as locker room loyalty. Some believe that Russell should not have been recording the video in the first place, as it is an invasion of Nick Young's privacy, and what happens on the team stays with the team. But Russell has no control over the hacking of the Snapchat, and maybe Swaggy P shouldn't have been bragging about the woman he's been with in the hotel room. Young never should have put himself in that situation. The expectation that Russell should protect his teammates' privacy is valid, but maybe Young should think twice before cheating on his fiancée. That's it for this week's Extra Point. For Lexi White, I'm Emma Beltrandi.
All right, thanks, Emmett Beltrandi. All right, a little change in program, I guess. From I don't know. That's not who we had. I mean, originally we had Sierra Keat on the email, I guess. Then it changed over to Lexi White. Now I guess it was Emma Beltrandi. But regardless of who wrote it and who recorded it, thank you for that.
Good take.
Three people, two. I'm not sure anymore. There's a lot of questions which just happened.
Yeah, I don't know. All right. Obviously, D'Angelo Russell. I know you guys don't want to get into that, do you?
I don't. It's stupid. The Lakers. The only thing that we should focus on with the Lakers right now is Kobe. As much as I have a questionable opinion on the farewell tours, Kobe's the man, and it's just a much better story than this garbage.
I mean, Kobe, he kind of has to be the alpha dog and maybe punch someone in the face in the locker room now.
Oh, okay.
Well, the good news for him is he's got, 6 or 7 games left, so he can,
he
can avoid all this.
He's shut it down. he's not going to deal with any of this nonsense.
He's got to make it to the end of the year.
All right, so another good segue there, that package. We're going to talk a little bit NBA right now. I know, Matt, you're a big NBA guy. What do you got for us?
Well, it's the end of the year. Playoff spots are being clinched. Playoff spots are being fought for. The Warriors are only allowed to lose one more time if they want to break the Bulls' record for best record in a season. The Spurs are still remarkably only 3 or 4 games behind them. However, that's possible.
That's amazing.
And while the Cavs are slowly self-destructing in the first place position, they're not going to win the Eastern Conference. You heard it here first.
Who is going to win?
The Toronto Raptors.
Okay, I'm even though I'm a Boston Celtics fan, It's
going to be the Raptors or the Celtics. I think it's one of those two teams.
Yeah, I'd be fine with the Raptors winning, to be honest. They're not
change of pace.
Yeah, they're not hateable. They're not a hateable team.
And
so
it's just they're a likable team. DeMar DeRozan's playing his best basketball. So is Kyle Lowry, and he's proving consistently that he is the best point guard in the Eastern Conference. For all you Kyrie Irving lovers out there, yes, I said that. He's better. He's better overall defensively without the ball. Kyrie Irving's a better point guard, or Kyle Lowry's a better point guard. And I think that if the Cavs continue to have the issues they've been having and LeBron's ego doesn't get any smaller, the Raptors will be able to push through in the Eastern Conference.
I mean, Kyle Lowry doesn't have any girl problems like Kyrie. Kyrie, maybe he might.
No, Kyrie has girl problems. Well, not anymore. They broke up. It's over. That one's.
Well, we don't have to get into that either. But Carl, any NBA thoughts?
Well, first of all, Matt, your take on. I'd like to ask you about. You said Toronto's going to catch Cleveland. Here's the rest of.
Oh, no, I didn't mean they're going to catch him for the rest of the season. I meant they're going to win the playoffs.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to clarify that. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Warriors. People forget that they're 76 games in, so 6 games left. They got to go 5-1 to break the record. People forget they can still tie it. I'll still be impressed. Will you guys still be impressed? I'll still be impressed if they tie it.
I'd be impressed if they lost every game for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Honestly, this. Yeah. Not only how much they've been winning, but the way they've been winning is what's so remarkable to me.
Well, I mean, and the other thing too for the Warriors, they close out the season 2 games against the Grizzlies, 2 games against the Spurs, and I know obviously the Grizzlies are without Marc Gasol and have been for some time, but they are still that grit and grind mentality where even if they're still the 5th seed, they're still a playoff team in the West. They'll definitely have something to fight for. I think they're going to give Golden State some good battles there down the stretch, and then they play San Antonio twice at the end. San Antonio has 64 wins this season, which is it's their franchise record for wins.
And no one's talking about it.
Completely overshadowed by Golden State.
And if you think of how good this franchise has been over the last 18 years maybe, How long?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing that the West is just. I'm more excited probably for the Western Conference Finals than I am the NBA Finals, because if that Western Conference Finals is Golden State against San Antonio, that means one of those teams is losing 4 games in a series. That's amazing. That's amazing to me.
I agree with you there, Carl, and because I want to transition towards what happened to the Warriors the other night against the Celtics.
Great game.
Oh, yeah.
Great game.
I was talking to my friend Sam, who's a big Warriors fan, and I was saying how he's worried about the 2 games against the Spurs, but I told him because it's reported that the Spurs are going to bench a lot of players in those 2 games.
At the end, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
They've already got
in
the
classic
off.
Greg Popovich fashion. I said that the game against the Celtics would be their biggest challenge of these 7 games, of their final 7 games, and well, they lost it, and I think it was Isaiah Thomas, another player who I think is being incredibly underrated. He was an All-Star this year and is playing his best basketball and probably better basketball than anyone thought a 5'9" person could play in the NBA. And they got their next game tonight against the Blazers, and that team, which is remarkable that they're in the playoff picture, by the way, is all Damian Lillard with some CJ McCollum in there. But unlike their last game, as long as Lillard doesn't go off for 51 again like he did the last time they played, this should be a pretty easy win for the Warriors. And then they got the Timberwolves. That's nothing.
Yeah.
And then they go Spurs, Grizz.
What a just Final 4 games to
so fun.
to have to bounce between.
Especially if the Spurs, are playing their starters.
Yeah, in at least one of those games.
My take on the Celtics game the other night, Celtics Warriors. The Warriors turnovers, I'm hoping this isn't a trend. I hope this is more of just kind of a one-time thing, although I know this has been kind of their one flaw over the last 2-3 seasons or so. When you play at a pace that Golden State does, and it's a lot of motion offense, there's going to be a lot, some wayward passes. But veteran teams like San Antonio will take advantage of that in the playoffs. Hopefully, the Warriors down the stretch here can keep the mistakes to a minimum, because it'll definitely be fun, I think, in my opinion, to see them just roll over teams in the playoffs, at least until the Western Conference Finals and possibly the NBA Finals.
Also, by the way, that first of the 2 games against the Spurs on April 7th is a TNT game. So isn't everyone excited to watch Greg Popovich bench his whole roster on national television? And then Adam Silver's going to say something, and then Greg Popovich isn't going to care, and then they're going to talk about it for like a day, and then it's going to be funny. It's theater. Yeah. And then the Spurs will probably only lose by like 15 to 20 anyway, even with Jonathan Simmons and Kyle Anderson in the starting lineup.
Yep. And Matt, you mentioned Cleveland imploding.
Oh, yeah.
They're up 98-92 on Charlotte right now with 3 minutes left.
By the way, did anyone think the Charlotte Hornets would be the 3rd seed in the Eastern Conference with 6 games left?
Well, I mean, there's like 4 teams who could be the 3 seed right now.
That's true, but
the
fact that
they're
in the conversation,
the
fact that they're in the conversation and currently holding that 3 seed is mind-boggling. I mean, I've always thought they were a very talented team. The addition of Nick Batum was clearly huge for them. And finally, Kemba Walker was having his best season. And with Al Jefferson being as hurt as often as he is, this is very impressive to me.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, you also can't forget. I mean, obviously, my boy is Jeremy Lin. I love him.
Do you have a particular hairstyle of his this season that you like the most?
A lot of people were talking about his giant mohawk. I actually wasn't a fan of that. I'm liking the more subdued.
Do you like the man bun he's got going on right now?
I like that's a lot better than the mohawk. His man bun it wasn't up to par with the one that Kelly Olynyk had earlier this year. That one, dirty Canadian hippie Kelly Olynyk is my absolute favorite Kelly Olynyk out there. Carl, what were you going to say?
I was not at all ready for that comment.
No, I was just going to say, if you look at the East right now, you got, if the season ended today, you got Cleveland against Indiana in the first round. Yes, please. Paul George, come on. I mean, Indiana's 40-36 right now as it stands, so they've got 6 left. I mean, the East is going to be so much fun this year, watching the playoffs in the East. Like I said, if it ended today, Cleveland, Indiana, Cleveland obviously the 1 seed. Toronto, Detroit, that'll be fun. Andre Drummond, Jonas Valanciunas, that'll be a great matchup. Charlotte Hornets, Miami Heat.
Good little Southeast action. I'd like that one. I mean, Kemba versus Dragic.
Yeah.
Whiteside versus Jefferson.
Oh, yes. Gimme. And then the final one, the 4-5, is Atlanta and Boston. That would be very fun because
That'd be
there
great.
were those trade rumors, Al Horford to the Celtics.
Yeah.
Each team would kind of get a look at what might have been there. So
Yeah.
I think,
And that's another great point guard matchup in Jeff Teague versus Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah, that'll be fun. And I think obviously the West is more top heavy this year, but and by that I mean you have one team could win 70 some odd games, and that's.
And the 8 seed is currently at 500.
Yeah, and I think,
Or the 7 and 8 seeds are both at 500.
yeah. So I think the Eastern playoffs are going to be much more fun to watch this year. Apart from I'm thinking of eventual and inevitable Golden State San Antonio matchup in the finals. Although don't sleep on Oklahoma City, of course. But if you want to watch some fun basketball, tune in the Eastern Conference because that'll be.
That's just
that'll be a good time.
it's so open that
Yeah.
anything could. It'll be like March Madness almost, where anything
there's
could
so much
happen.
parity. Yep, I agree.
Yep.
I mean, really. I mean, I honestly think Paul George could and the Pacers could give the Cavs for their money. I mean, I think the Cavs will probably come out in like a 4-1, but a gritty, tough 4-1 where the Pacers are in it every game and then they just happen to lose most of them.
It wouldn't be outrageous to pick the 4 through 8 seeds. The 5 through 8 seeds to win every
No.
series. I don't think it would be that outrageous.
It's not in most situations. I mean, and another low-seeded team in that, the Detroit Pistons. Andre Drummond, another player who's been playing his best basketball this season.
Also Reggie Jackson.
And Reggie Jackson, I agree. He may be feuding with the Thunder a little bit. He's another guy who's really come alive for this team and was a big offseason signing for them. And I love Brandon Jennings. He's they traded him. Never mind.
On Orlando.
They traded him.
You can say you love
That's
Tobias
my bad.
Harris. If you love Tobias Harris just as much, that's who they got for him. So
He's He's
Good, solid
don't
small forward, I think.
don't like him as much as people.
I
like
mean,
Brandon.
the guy scores it like the best of them, but he's not my Brandon Jennings.
Yeah. I agree with you guys. I would like to see the Celtics. I think a Celtics Warriors NBA Finals.
That would be crazy.
That would be
very fun.
amazing.
That would be very fun. I
Crazy.
think.
I think that would easily go 7 games. The Celtics
Easily?
The Celtics give
them a lot of
Golden
problems.
State, and if you think about the win that the Celtics had over the Warriors the other night, not only did it break Golden State's home streak of 54 games, but they did it coming off a back-to-back. It was the second game of a back-to-back, and they were playing without Jay Crowder, who's arguably their second best
That's
player
true.
behind
That is true.
Isaiah
And
Thomas.
by far their best defender.
Yeah.
I'll
Exactly.
give you this. Do you remember back a few months ago in December, the Celtics were the team that Golden State played a back-to-back. Golden State was
Yep.
undefeated at the time. Celtics brought them to overtime in the
Yeah.
Garden and didn't win. Golden State ended up pulling that game out. But then the next night, Golden State lost to Milwaukee for their first
Yeah.
loss of the season. So you've got these long, grinding games where you're getting tired if you're Golden State, if you're playing back-to-backs. Obviously, that's not going to be happening in the playoffs, but I don't want to talk about, this hypothetical series where, Boston is the 5th seed in the East right now, and I know we said anything can happen, but I will say that as a Celtics fan, I don't think we'll beat the Warriors, but definitely
We'll give them
it'll be
quite a series.
It'll be entertaining basketball. I don't think you can measure it by how many wins or losses, in this case, Golden State suffers. This is still one of the best teams in NBA history. I don't think we're beating. I don't think the Celtics are going to beat the Warriors 4 times in a 7-game stretch. I would pick the Warriors in 5 or 6, but I do think it would be a very entertaining series to watch.
Well, as a Spurs fan, I'm going to say you guys aren't going to get that opportunity.
Oh.
Because
really?
straight up, Spurs in 4 in the Western Conference Finals.
Oh wow!
Oh, please.
All right, that's a hot take. Well, all right, we're gonna log that. I'm gonna.
We'll
Rip
put
this
that on
audio.
death tape for the end of the year
Yeah.
when I just sound
Yeah.
stupid.
Yeah. Well, I'll make sure to pull this audio later, and I'll be sure to send it to you when, if Golden State happens to pull it out.
Well, I
Or
mean,
even win one game in the series. Cause
Yeah.
I don't think you sound that stupid. We just said the Celtics were making the finals and could take Golden State.
they-
this time.
I think they could. They very well could make the finals. They're a very good team, and they beat the Warriors last night. And I think if it's not the Raptors, it's the Celtics.
Yeah, I have to agree. It's going to hinge on. I mean, people keep saying, "Can Isaiah Thomas keep it up?" And he's been keeping it up. So we'll see if he can keep it up.
I mean, it's just because he's so small. Like you look at it. Like if he were 6'2", no one would be saying, "Can he keep it up?"
It wouldn't be as
It
great
wouldn't-
of an accomplishment.
It wouldn't be as great of it wouldn't seem as great, and they also wouldn't be asking, "Can he keep it up?"
Yeah.
Because he's a normal size of an NBA point guard.
He broke Larry Bird's record for most consecutive games leading scoring for the Celtics with like 14 or 15 games. He's a special player. But I know we want to get to MLB opening day. So my closing thought here is just, if Cleveland continues to implode, I think the East is wide open. But right now my pick is Cleveland. But, of course, that's with an asterisk next to it. If they don't, give me Cleveland to make the finals.
And my final thought is, I said at the beginning of this year the Utah Jazz were going to make the playoffs, and I was laughed at by many people. Gordon Hayward's been playing amazing. Derek Favors, Rudy Gobert. This team has been playing very well, and currently they are tied for 7th in the Western Conference with the Mavericks. And I'm not saying they're a team to be worried about once they make the playoffs. I'm just trying to enjoy a little moment knowing that with 6 games left in the season, I could very well be right about this, especially because I'm a massive Gordon Hayward fan.
Excellent. All right, so like we mentioned, it is MLB opening day. We're going to transition from fast-paced basketball to baseball.
What are you trying to say about baseball, Alex?
Oh, no, I love baseball. I'm a huge baseball fan. But you can't argue that it's a little bit slower paced, just by a little. But
smidgen.
Today, opening day for the MLB season. Oddly enough, it kicked off in Pittsburgh. I don't know why. But Pittsburgh beat St. Louis 4-1. Currently, Blue Jays are up 3-1 over the Tampa Bay Rays down in Florida. That game, 2 great pitchers in Marcus Stroman for the Blue Jays and Chris Archer for the Rays. 2 great young right-handed pitchers. And later tonight...
Well, knowing the Rays have given up 3 runs, not great for my fantasy team, knowing that I have Chris Archer.
Yeah, that's a less than ideal start.
It's early.
He can still be electric. And then later tonight, we've got the primetime matchup between the Mets visiting the Kansas City Royals in a World Series rematch. The starting lineups are out. Matt Harvey on the mound for the Mets after his bladder issue a couple of days ago that scratched him from his last spring training start. So we'll see if he can bounce back from that against Edinson Volquez for the Royals. Matt, you're wearing a Yankees hat, so safe to say that you are a Yankees fan.
Confirmed.
And Carl, I know you are actually from a town in Massachusetts that's about 45 minutes from mine, so it's safe to say you're a Red Sox fan.
For sure, yeah.
But I think at least you and I, Carl, can agree that it's fun to watch the Mets pitching staff. I know there might be some New York animosity.
They're great. What do you want me to say? They're unbelievably talented, top to bottom. I, much as I may not enjoy the team as a whole or a lot of the way their fan base may act on a daily basis, it's like they're just phenomenal players, and got to appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, I was most impressed last year in the playoffs with their fight.
Yeah.
And that was, that's always fun to see playoff, I was going to say playoff baseball, but playoff any sport, it's fun to see a team that fights and hustles, and I think that's why, that's what makes sports so endearing to people. But, I think Jake had the take last hour that the Mets, he thought, to him at least, the Mets were the favorites because of their pitching staff, and wow, I would have to agree. That thing is loaded.
Yeah, I mean, the Mets, they definitely took a nice turn for the better last season. I mean, re-signing Gwen Cespedes for this season was huge for them. That upped their odds to make it back to the World Series immensely, in my opinion. It should be a really good game tonight. I know, who was it on the Royals? The Royals are going to maybe look for like retribution or something, plunking somebody on the Mets or something like that. Could be something to watch. I don't know if they'll actually go through with that.
I mean, didn't Ned Yost say that was like preposterous and it wasn't going to happen?
Yeah, let's hope that doesn't.
I really hope it doesn't. It's just not a good way to start the season. It's just sort of petty. Like, just take the high road and just play baseball. Prove you're better. Beat them.
Yeah.
Or
do
don't.
Talking on the field.
Yeah, exactly.
Or don't, because they probably won't beat them anyway.
So then looking at our teams ahead, we've got the Red Sox are in Cleveland for a 4:10 p.m. Eastern start tomorrow. David Price against Corey Kluber in that one. And the Yankees, 1 p.m. Against the Houston Astros. I don't know. Have they even announced? The Yankees even announced their starting pitcher? Because It
I
was
think
like
the rotation's been announced, and I'm pretty sure it's Tanaka tomorrow.
yeah, yeah, Tanaka against Keuchel. Because I mean, up until a couple days ago, I think it wasn't.
It hadn't been. Because
Yeah.
a few days ago, before Tanaka's last preseason start, Girardi had said he's going to have to show me something
Yeah, and
to be the ace.
Guess he did. Either that or no one else showed him enough.
Well, I think that was just sort of an empty comment because who else is it going to be? I don't think Severino's ready to be an opening day starter. Pineda's certainly not good enough. CeCe sucks. I'll say it.
He's
And
a 5 starter.
he is the 5 starter. And how many baseball teams currently in Major League Baseball have their 5 starter making $20+ million? Let's riddle me that.
Ooh.
Riddle me that.
Depending on how Rick Porcello's season goes, we could maybe see him
Because
be like the highest.
as much
paid
as
fifth starter
I
in
am a
the
Yankee
league.
fan, and while baseball might not be the sport that I follow the closest, I'm very willing as a Yankee fan to just attack them for a lot of the way their lineup is currently constructed, only because I'm so excited for the future of once Teixeira, A-Rod, and Sabathia are gone. They have all that money, and then they're going to have all the young guys, and it's just a new start. That is what I want. That's 2 years from now. Give me some 2018 baseball. Yes.
Then we obviously had Andrew Miller had a scare with his wrist. The bone chips that.
He's gonna play.
Yeah, he's gonna soldier on.
Yeah, because it's on his non-throwing hand, so he's just
That
not-
makes it a lot easier.
Well, he just doesn't care. He's like, if it hurts, it hurts. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't have to throw with that hand.
But if he was going to be missing substantial time, and then you've got Chapman's whole situation, that vaunted bullpen would have gone down a lot.
Well, yeah, it would have. It would have. But and I think he's allowed to be hurt once Chapman comes back.
Oh yeah, it makes it a lot easier when you have a role as Chapman to give you some leeway.
Because once he's back, then Miller can go away for a while. Betances can go to the 8th inning instead of the 7th, and then they'll find some other scrub to take over the 7th if necessary.
Yep. And obviously with the Red Sox, we've got David Ortiz's final opening day.
Another farewell tour.
Yeah. Although he said he didn't ask for it, so we'll see if he actually. It does.
But the question is, will Yankee fans be as gracious to him as Red Sox fans were to Derek Jeter? Because I'm going to go with a hard no on that one.
Oh, I hope they boo the hell out of David Ortiz because Derek Jeter never walked off. He didn't win those big games like David Ortiz did against the Yankees. So there's a little bit of animosity just because it's Yankees Red Sox and it's Derek Jeter and it's the old guard.
Yeah.
But
when Derek Jeter was at his peak, or I shouldn't say at his peak, but early on in his career, the Yankees were winning and the Red Sox were nothing. So there was no real.
I think nothing's a strong word because in the mid 2000s, those were some phenomenal baseball.
Yeah, I'm saying when they were winning their championships, though.
Okay.
With the,
okay.
That's when Jeter kind of, I think that was the best point in his career, at least with the teams that he was on. So there wasn't as much of a reason for the Red Sox fans to hate him. I personally, as a Red Sox fan, I have a lot of respect for Derek Jeter. A great player. He did everything the right way.
If we start talking about him too much, I might start crying. So can we go in another direction, please?
But, okay, so I'll swing it over. David Ortiz, yeah, I think there would definitely be Yankees fans would definitely have the right to boo him. But I think it would be a nice little kind of respect thing to give him not a standing O, but a short, quick, curt round of applause.
Just like a stern, appreciation for his talent.
Give him one clap, and then you can just start booing him.
Thanks, but no thanks.
As much as I'd love to see Yankee fans be gracious about this, I just don't see it happening. There's no way. Hard no.
Then looking over at those Red Sox, it's new signing David Price against former American League Cy Young winner Corey Kluber.
It's gonna be fun.
Oh, I can't wait for the Price era to start.
You better be worth the money.
World Series every year, Cy Young every year. I cannot wait for the David Price era to start. It's going to be phenomenal.
Well, not with Kung Fu Panda at third base.
But
he's sitting.
He's sitting. We've got the mayor of Ding Dong City, Travis Shaw, playing the hot corner at least to start the season. We'll see if he can match the expectations that we're all placing on him.
And if the guy
and that is
can catch it.
And as we're going back to my comment about how many teams have their fifth starter making $20 million. At least everyone making $20 million on the Yankees is going to start the season.
Yeah.
Unlike Pablo Sandoval for the Red Sox.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, you got Clay Buchholz, whose average season is like he's going to throw like a 16 start season or something like that.
Yeah. And he'll be out in July.
Yeah.
Some.
So, at least baseball season is back. All right, guys. We're getting down to the end of it. Any final thoughts, Matt? We're going to go to you first.
My final thought, I just want to throw it back to March Madness for a sec. On Villanova's roster is a walk-on named Henry Lowe. I used to play rec basketball with this kid when I was in elementary and middle school.
Name drop.
He's a really nice kid. He's been on this team. He leads the team out of the tunnel. He's an emotional leader on this team. He's by far the shortest kid on this team. If you ever see them play, he's the 5'11" one who is towered over by everyone else. And he's just a really nice kid who I just wanted to appreciate for making a Division I basketball roster. And he actually got minutes last night, bricked 2 free throws.
Oh,
So,
you never want to hear that.
But I just wanted to throw him a shout-out for making the Final Four in his senior year at Villanova.
My final thought would definitely have to be Kobe Bryant's final game against the Celtics, and that'll be tonight at the Staples Center at 9:30 Eastern. He played in 2 finals against the C's, definitely a legendary player, and I think that, this is one of the great basketball rivalries, if not the great basketball rivalry, and while it's nowhere near where it used to be, especially with Kobe's team having only 16 wins on the season, they're not really playing for much. I think we should...
They're playing for Ben Simmons, is what you mean.
That's true. So, yeah. But, I think we should take a step back from the controversy that's going on in LA right now and just appreciate the game that's going to happen tonight. Obviously, it's a game the Celtics want to win. They lost the Lakers in Boston earlier this year, so it's definitely one that you want to win for the rivalry. But yeah, I think just the Kobe aspect where, like the farewell tour, you're seeing him play his last games against teams, and that's definitely something to pay attention to.
Excellent. All right, my final thought. Little bit off the beaten path here in terms of sports, but WrestleMania is tonight down in Dallas, down in actually Arlington, because it's not... We don't have to get into that.
Cheaper real estate.
Yeah, exactly. But big time card, at least in terms of nostalgia. You've got probably the one match that everyone's going to talk about. And I haven't watched wrestling in a very long time, but the fact that Shane McMahon is back and he's going to be fighting The Undertaker in Hell in a Cell. There's rumors that he's going to jump off the giant screen there at Jerry World. If he does, R.I.P. Shane McMahon. Are
you saying he can't survive that jump?
Not at his age right now. Maybe when he was in his prime, he could have. Not right now. But I'm not saying I'm going to buy this pay-per-view. I'll leave it at that. If you snitch, just remember that karma does come back around. But right now,
you hear that, D'Angelo?
Yeah, exactly.
You hear that, D'Angelo Russell?
God, D'Angelo Russell's going to tattle on me. So that is going to do it for us. I'm Alex Wong with Matt Hornick and Carl Valentine. You're going to get the John Lebo Show right after the break. You've got Alex Lebowitz, John Sokoloff, and it appears a special guest in Adam Brobst.
He's right here.
Yeah. So that's going to do it for us. Stay tuned for more.
So just talking to this, testing. Is this thing on?